You're listening to the N2K Space Network.
Step into the digital upside down with Cyber Things, Armis's new 3-part podcast series, which will dive into the unseen world of cybersecurity. From real-life hacks to the digital shadows of the dark web, we connect pop culture and protection, fear and control. Episode 1 drops soon, so look out for Cyber Things in partnership with Cyberwire.
From phishing to ransomware, cyber threats are constant. But with NordLayer, your defense can be too. NordLayer brings together secure access and advanced threat protection in a single, seamless platform. It helps your team spot suspicious activity before it becomes a problem by blocking malicious links and scanning downloads in real time, preventing malware from reaching your network. It's quick to deploy, easy to scale, and built on zero-trust principles, so only the right people get access to the right resources. Get 28% off on a yearly plan at nordlayer.com/cyberwiredaily with code cyberwire-28. That's nordlayer.com/cyberwiredaily, code cyberwire-28. That's valid through December 10th, 2025.
Today is November 17th, 2025. I'm Maria Varmazes, and this is T-Minus.
T-Minus. 20 seconds to LOS egress. Go for deploy. Roger, roll. 5.
Madhya Pradesh's Department of Science and Technology has unveiled a draft of the state's Space Tech Policy 2025.
4.
Jeff Bezos is set to launch a new artificial intelligence business that focuses on AI for engineering and manufacturing of computers, automobiles, and spacecraft.
3.
SpaceX launched the NASA-ESA jointly developed Copernicus Sentinel-6B satellite from California.
2.
The Federal Aviation Administration has lifted restrictions on spaceflight launch operations.
1.
China will send a Shenzhou spacecraft to Tiangong Space Station to support the crew in orbit. And today we have our monthly catch-up with Patrick O'Neill, Public Affairs and Outreach Lead at the International Space Station U.S. National Laboratory. We're going to be discussing genes in space and how Jimmy Buffett continues to support the research on the space station 4 years after his passing. How? Yeah, well, find out more after today's intelligence briefing. Happy Monday, everybody. I hope you had a lovely weekend. Thank you for joining me. As we mentioned on Friday's show as sort of a footnote, China's Shenzhou 20 crew are now safely on terra firma. The crew had returned using the spacecraft that had transported the Shenzhou 21 crew to Tiangong Space Station, and then predictably cue the headlines on stranded taikonauts. But really, it did, understandably, leave the world scratching their heads and asking, what was going to be next for the crew that was still on orbit? Well, on Saturday, we got our answer when state TV broadcaster CCTV reported that China has begun preparations to send an uncrewed Shenzhou spacecraft to its Tiangong space station ahead of schedule. The spacecraft was originally scheduled to transport the Shenzhou 22 crew to Tiangong in April 2026. However, as the Shenzhou 21 spacecraft was used on Friday by the Shenzhou 20 astronauts, the 22 spacecraft is now needed as a standby cruise ship, and I hope you're keeping up with all those crew numbers. So 22 is going up to rescue the 21s because the 20s used the 21s. Got that? Okay. So giving you a quick lowdown on why the crew returned on a different spacecraft than the one that they launched on. Well, if you didn't catch it, cracks were found on the viewport window of the Shenzhou 20 capsule. It is assumed that they were caused by external impact from space debris. The 3 Shenzhou 20 astronauts returned safely to Earth again using the Shenzhou 21 spacecraft on Friday afternoon. 9 days later than their planned landing, but better late than never, of course. The crew members are reportedly in good health and have entered a period of routine medical quarantine. They are expected to meet with the media in Beijing after their quarantine ends, and we will, of course, bring you updates on when the crew in orbit have their return capsule. Let's head on over to the United States now, and with the U.S. government shutdown concluding last week, finally, the FAA has lifted restrictions on space launches as of today, Monday, November 17th. The news, as you might be imagining, has been welcomed by the industry, which had been concerned that the limits that were set on spaceflight would cause delays to flights that needed to lift off during daylight hours. We expect that the launch schedule in both Florida and California will now resume to normal operations quickly. And that said, overnight, a new Copernicus satellite was launched from California, which is set to provide ocean and atmospheric information to improve hurricane forecasts, help protect infrastructure, and benefit commercial activities such as shipping. The Sentinel-6B was jointly developed by both NASA and ESA, and it will orbit Earth every 112 minutes, traveling at 4.5 miles per second. The satellite will eventually take over for its twin, Sentinel-6 Michael Freilich, which was launched 5 years ago, to continue a multi-decade data set for sea level measurements from space. The Sentinel-6B satellite lifted off aboard a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket from Launch Complex 4 East at Vandenberg Space Force Base. Contact between the satellite and a ground station in northern Canada occurred about an hour and 30 minutes after launch, and all systems are functioning nominally. Jeff Bezos, yes, that Jeff Bezos, is set to launch a new artificial intelligence business that focuses on AI for engineering and manufacturing of computers, automobiles, and spacecraft. The Amazon and Blue Origin founder is calling his new startup Project Prometheus and has reportedly garnered $6.2 billion in funding, partly, as you might imagine, from Bezos himself, making it one of the most well-financed early-stage startups in the world. Quite a head start, huh? Bezos will be taking on the role of co-chief executive officer for Project Prometheus, his first formal operational role in a company since he stepped down as the CEO of Amazon in July 2021. Bezos' co-chief executive is Vic Bajaj, a physicist and chemist who worked closely with Google's co-founder Sergey Brin at Google's X, a research effort often called the Moonshot Factory. According to a report by the New York Times about all of this, Project Prometheus has already hired nearly 100 employees, including researchers from top AI firms such as OpenAI, DeepMind, and Meta. And now perhaps we can better understand the rebranding of what was once known as Project Kuiper, which will now be known as Amazon Leo. And finally, Indian state Madhya Pradesh's Department of Science and Technology has unveiled a draft of the state's Space Tech Policy 2025. And this policy aims to establish Madhya Pradesh as the leading destination for space-related innovation, manufacturing, and application-driven solutions in India. It outlines ambitious goals for the next 5 years, such as attracting around 30 space tech startups to the region, securing over $100 million in investments, and generating 2,000 skilled direct employment opportunities. To catalyze private sector participation, the policy introduces substantial financial incentives and infrastructural support. You can read more about the draft in the Times of India report that's linked in the selected reading section of our show notes. And for folks who need a geography touch-up, Sriharikota is in Andhra Pradesh, which is to the south of Madhya Pradesh. And speaking of those show notes, we have added more stories in our selected reading section for you today. U.S. Senator Martin Heinrich, who is the ranking member of the U.S. Senate Appropriations Subcommittee on the Legislative Branch, announced $83 million for the construction of a new Space Rapid Capabilities Office, better known as Space RCO, headquartered on Kirtland Air Force Base in New Mexico. Virago has launched a new radiation-tolerant chip to power satellites, and Sidus Space has released third-quarter financial results. All of those links, along with the original sources of all the stories that I mentioned throughout this episode, can all be found on our website, which is space.n2k.com, in addition to the show notes on the platform that you listen to us on. You know, a lot of people are listening to podcasts through YouTube nowadays, and if that is the way that you would prefer to listen to this show, well, I've got good news for you. T-Minus Space Daily is indeed on YouTube. We post our episodes there along with video clips from some of our interviews and events throughout the year. You can find us at N2K Cyber. That is our company's YouTube channel, and you will find the T-Minus Space Daily playlist on there, along with all of the other shows we make here at N2K. Again, that's at N2K Cyber on YouTube.
What's your 2 a.m. security worry? Is it, do I have the right controls in place? Maybe, are my vendors secure? Or the one that really keeps you up at night, how do I get out from under these old tools and manual processes? That's where Vanta comes in. Vanta automates the manual work so you can stop sweating over spreadsheets, chasing audit evidence, and filling out endless questionnaires. Their trust management platform continuously monitors your systems, centralizes your data, and simplifies your security at scale. And it fits right into your workflows, using AI to streamline evidence collection, flag risks, and keep your program audit ready, all the time. With Vanta, you get everything you need to move faster, scale confidently, and finally, get back to sleep. Get started at vanta.com/cyber. That's VANTA.com/cyber.
Our guest today is Patrick O'Neill, Public Affairs and Outreach Lead at the International Space Station, U.S. National Laboratory. The ISS National Lab has just unveiled a new mission patch with an unlikely partner, and I asked Patrick to tell us all more about it.
So this has been a long-standing project with a lot of starts, stops, and some changes in latitudes, quite literally.
Nice.
In the early origins of the ISS National Lab, we worked with a variety of companies, celebrities to develop mission patches that represented, research that was happening on the space station during that particular year. And so we had the chance to work with some great figures, whether it was Ridley Scott, Lucasfilm and Star Wars, Marvel with Guardians of the Galaxy, Shepard Fairey, Seth Green. So it's like we've worked with some interesting folks, and we came into contact with Jimmy Buffett in 2018, 2019, and there was a mutual desire at one point to develop a mission patch. And the one thing that we had never done, or that the partners we had worked with had never done, was sold that mission patch. This was always done with the intention of engaging the general public on the great things that are happening on the space station through the National Laboratory. But Jimmy and his team at Margaritaville, they saw the value of maybe this is something that we can sell to our community, and we can donate the proceeds from that to the ISS National Lab to further research to better understand or improve our planet. And so obviously that was 2019, and a lot of time has since passed since that time frame. And unfortunately, Jimmy in 2023, he also passed after a long battle with cancer.
Yeah.
But his team at Margaritaville, they reached back out to us and they said, listen, this was a passion project for Jimmy. And we see the value of this still going live because it provides an opportunity for us to honor Jimmy's legacy, both in singing, songwriting, entrepreneurship, but more importantly, being able to give back and to potentially help fund research on the space station. So last week at the Space Economy Summit, Margaritaville announced this collaboration. And so they are selling the patches, they are selling stickers, they will be selling a variety of likeness thereof, and all of the proceeds will be going to Cases, the manager of the ISS National Lab, to again further research or ongoing research on the space station to improve our planet.
That's so wonderful. And I think it's so important that people also understand that these kinds of projects do take time. They can take years to just percolate. And, things do happen. Sadly, losing Jimmy, that I could have seen that derail things. But how wonderful that Margaritaville wanted to continue with his legacy and this project. So
I agree
great.
100%. And it's funny. I still remember it like it was yesterday, where it was December 28th, 2018. And I'm at Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex with my parents, and they're walking around the Atlantis exhibit. And I'm actually standing right next to the ISS kind of exhibit that they have over there. And I get this email, and I'm looking at it, and it ends up being from Jimmy Buffett. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And he just says, yeah, I want to do the patch. And I mean, it's up on my computer right now, where I was looking at that the other day when all this was happening. And I was like, that's one of those moments where it just stops you right in your tracks. And it's something that is indelible to me. And I'm excited to see how this resonates with the general public, not just the parrot heads out there, but also with the space enthusiasts and just those that want to see great things happen on the space station.
I love it. And for me, and I don't live anywhere near Florida. I'm in Massachusetts, so like the exact opposite of Florida. But when I think of Florida, I think of the space program and Jimmy Buffett. I mean, truly, it's such a perfect match. I will now completely change topics to this awesome article I saw in Upward magazine, which I want you to tell us about what Upward magazine is, about the Genes in Space program hitting its 10th anniversary this year. So I just threw a whole bunch of terms. Walk me through all this. Genes in Space, Upward, all of that.
So I'm going to start first with Genes in Space, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because when you and I were chatting before, and I was like, oh yes, that's a great thing for us to talk about. So Genes in Space is a program that was developed through Boeing and Mini PCR, and it was done with the intention of having students propose genetics experiments on the space station. And so, to your point, we've been now operating this project for 10 years. There have been, dozens of students that have been involved in projects that have flown to the space station. And there have been thousands and tens of thousands of students around the United States that have proposed ideas about doing genetic experiments on the space station. And so what we did is we did kind of a compilation of where are some of those people at now. And one of the great things about the Genes in Space program, and listen, I love my beloved San Diego State University, but the students that have ultimately won the Genes in Space competition, they have gone on to some of the best institutions in the United States of America, and they have been specializing in either medical fields or engineering. So this was in some ways an opportunity to really inspire the next generation about what you can do when you think out of the box for STEM or STEAM-related initiatives. And so this has been kind of a crown jewel for us to talk about from an educational perspective. And so again, we've highlighted multiple students that ended up winning and have now since moved on to either professional endeavors or now engrossed deeply into their academic studies. And they talked a little bit about how this program was instrumental to them.
These were high school students that got to, I just feel like we got to emphasize that. High schoolers doing this. This is amazing.
That are proposing, and again, these are not fundamental investigations. These are hardcore genetics experiments that would help to allow us to better understand how to live and work in space, or also to bring some of that back to us here on Earth. So again, it's really a fantastic program. We've been honored to work alongside, again, Boeing and Mini PCR during these 10 plus years, and it's not stopping. So that's the great thing about it. Now, where you can learn a little bit more about this particular piece is through Upward. And Upward is the official magazine of the ISS National Laboratory. We put out normally 3 to 4 volumes over the course of any given year. But what makes Upward different from press releases or blogs or things that we might put out there in the general ether is that this is focused on results. We hear it all the time, not just what's happening on the space station, but why does it matter? What are the things that we're learning, and how are we able to impart that into our life here on Earth or to business models in space? And Upward is that magazine, is that mechanism for us here at the ISS National Lab, where it's focused specifically on the results that are happening and why it matters and the impacts it has for all of us. And what I would also do is shameless plug. So first of all, you can go subscribe to it on our website at issnationallab.org. But speaking of anniversaries, we mentioned 10 years for Genes in Space. Early next year, I want to say in February 2026, that's going to be our 10th anniversary of Upward. So we're hoping to have a special edition of Upward that will go out to the masses. And again, it's a great opportunity for you to learn about what's been happening on station, but the results that have been derived from that research.
That's so wonderful. And, I was saying to you offline, there's only so much I can cover in a podcast. I feel like we're just always a little taster. And for folks, we always emphasize, you want to get something more in depth, we will happily send you to places that do much more in depth than we can possibly do. So for sure, I mean, I had been briefly looking through Upward, and it's wonderful how, whoops, I hit my mic. It's wonderful how in depth
you're that
they can
excited
get.
about it. Yeah.
I'm
So,
that
and again,
excited
it's not like to your point, it's a deeper dive. It's
It is
not
a much deeper
it's
dive,
a feature.
yes.
There's normally 3 or 4 features in each volume. And again, there are multiple pages. So, if you got 10, 15 minutes, you're going to enjoy that read. So
That's wonderful.
it's not just a Cliff Notes version. It is truly, how things started to how they ended to now what are we doing moving forward. So it's a great look at a lot of historical R&D that's happened on station, and how that sets the foundation for what we can do next.
No, it's a highly recommended read. So we'll make sure we have links in the show notes for everybody if they don't already know about it, which I would imagine many of our listeners do. But in case they don't, they will now. So yes, Upward,
I
indeed.
appreciate the plug. We appreciate the plug.
Of course. No, I mentioned earlier, I got my start ages ago in writing, so I'm a big fan of the written word. This big fan. What can I say? Patrick, is there anything else you want to make sure to mention for today's segment?
Again, I think that we're happy to be kind of back to that full speed moment again. There's going to be some moments hopefully we'll be able to talk about in the December timeframe. But one thing I would also float out to those that are very deep into space R&D, or those that maybe are already actively involved in doing research on the space station, there will be a conference that will be happening in early December. Let me see if I get this right. It's ASGSR, which is the American Society of Gravitational and Space Research. And they're going to be having their annual gathering. It's going to be December 3rd through December 6th out in Phoenix, Arizona, which is probably about one of the best places you could be in that December timeframe. So we're going to be talking about a lot of research that's happening on station. And think of that as when we talk about Upward, this is the same thing, except you're doing it in person and people are presenting and going in depth on the research that they've been doing on station and what they've learned and what the next steps might look like. So if there are those that are out there that are interested, there will be a large contingent, I think, not large, but there'll be a contingent from the National Lab, from our friends over at NASA, as well as the research community as a whole.
That's wonderful. Well, welcome back, everybody. Patrick, good to speak with you as always.
Always a pleasure.
And I'm sure next month when we catch up, it'll be really busy given all the catching up to be done.
Trust me, it's going to be. It's already busy, but hopefully it's going to be even more busy. But that's how it should be. We always want things to be rapid and accelerating on the space station, or down here on Earth, getting ready to send things to the space station.
We'll be right back.
At Thales, they know cybersecurity can be tough and you can't protect everything. But with Thales, you can secure what matters most. With Thales's industry-leading platforms, you can protect critical applications, data, and identities, anywhere and at scale with the highest ROI. That's why the most trusted brands and largest banks, retailers, and healthcare companies in the world rely on Thales to protect what matters most: applications, data, and identity. That's Thales. THALES. Learn more at thalesgroup.com/cyber.
Welcome back. Chinese scientists studying lunar regolith samples found by Chang'e 6 at the South Pole Aitken Basin, or SPA, say that they have found micrometer-scale hematite and maghemite, and they are both oxidized iron minerals. Yes, they found rust on the moon. And of hematite and maghemite, the latter is also magnetic. In both cases, they weren't expected to be found on the moon. And the team from CNSA, Shandong University, and the Chinese Academy of Sciences reported their discovery in Science Advances, calling it the first sample-based evidence of both hematite and maghemite on the lunar surface. And the researchers posit that large ancient impacts are likely what caused temporary oxygen-rich vapor plumes that then oxidized lunar iron and produced these materials. And this could also maybe help explain magnetic anomalies around the SPA basin since, again, maghemite is magnetic. So for our geologist friends and for lunar scientists, These tiny findings are an interesting evolution in our understanding of the moon's redox history. In other words, our understanding of how reduction-oxidation chemical reactions happened on the moon. And now it's onwards to go from these clues to figure out more about how major impacts shaped the moon's chemistry and its sublimely unique magnetic environment. Yes, all of that from humble rust. And that is T-Minus, brought to you by N2K Cyberwire. We'd love to know what you think of our podcast. Your feedback ensures we deliver the insights that keep you a step ahead in the rapidly changing space industry. If you like our show, please share a rating and review in your podcast app. Please also fill out the survey in the show notes or send an email to space@n2k.com. We are proud that N2K Cyberwire is part of the daily routine of the most influential leaders and operators in the public and private sector, from the Fortune 500 to many of the world's preeminent intelligence and law enforcement agencies. N2K helps space and cybersecurity professionals grow, learn, and stay informed. As a nexus for discovery and connection, we bring you the people, the technology, and the ideas shaping the future of secure innovation. Learn how at n2k.com. N2K's senior producer is Alice Caruth. Our producer is Liz Stokes. We are mixed by Elliot Peltzman and Trey Hester, with original music by Elliot Peltzman. Our executive producer is Jennifer Iben. Peter Kilpie is our publisher, and I am your host, Maria Varmazes. Thank you for listening. We'll see you tomorrow.
T-Minus.
Ever wished you could rebuild your network from scratch to make it more secure, scalable, and simple? Meet Meter, the company reimagining enterprise networking from the ground up. Meter builds full-stack, zero-trust networks, including hardware, firmware, and software, all designed to work seamlessly together. The result? Fast, reliable, and secure connectivity without the constant patching, vendor juggling, or hidden costs. From wired and wireless to routing, switching, firewalls, DNS security, and VPN, every layer is integrated and continuously protected in one unified platform. And since it's delivered as one predictable monthly service, you skip the heavy capital costs and endless upgrade cycles. Meter even buys back your old infrastructure to make switching effortless. Transform complexity into simplicity and give your team time to focus on what really matters, helping your business and customers thrive. Learn more and book your demo at meter.com/cyberwire. That's METER.com/cyberwire.